Hello everyone, welcome here at Fietsersbond in Utrecht in the Netherlands. I'm here with Saskia Kluit, director of the Fietsersbond, and she would like to share some good practices here from the Netherlands on advocacy. And we're going to talk about, Saskia?
About bike parking, because every time I talk to people from abroad, they always are interested in how do you arrange things for bike parking around public transport.
Yeah, because in the Netherlands, if you've ever been here, that it is quite interesting to see the stations, I think. There are a lot of bicycles around. But Saskia, maybe you can explain why that is also seen as a problem.
Well, you have to understand that it sometimes it are 10,000 bikes. So in spatial quality, it's not necessarily a positive thing. So when you exit the station area and there are 10,000 bikes, it might feel a bit uncomfortable. It might be even feel a bit dangerous. So that's a problem for the public transport company, because people don't like to travel at night anymore because of all those bikes. Because you cannot look around really easily. That is actually the biggest problem. Somebody might hide between all those bikes. It is a problem for the local municipality, because not only people park their bikes, but some people also ditch their bikes at station parking, and so they take up space and not in a useful way. So that is a problem.
Especially the broken bikes. I don't need this anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's how some Dutch people ditch their bike. They just leave it at station and never return. Thirdly, it's a problem because if the bike parkings are so big, you have to walk a long time before you are on the platform to take your train. So it takes up a lot of time. For example, in Utrecht, if you would park your bike here 15 years back, it might take you 10-15 minutes to go from your bike to the platform, and that in reality slowed you down if you took a train.
Yeah. And now there have been changes going on. Can you explain a bit about that?
Yeah, well, both the public transport companies, as the municipality, as the national government had problems. Yeah. So they decided that they wanted to invest in better bike parking. And we actually, as Fietsersbond, we lobbied also for a large amount of money to be able to do so. We were very successful. So there was a national plan for bike parking. Several hundreds of millions of euros were allocated for bike parkings, but people also found that very expensive. Yeah. So then they had the idea, well, let's see if we can earn some money back by asking cyclists to pay for their new bike parking. Yeah. But of course my constituency said, well, you know, I never asked for an indoor bike parking, very luxurious. You had a problem as my municipality. I didn't have a problem, so I should not be forced to pay for that. Yeah. So we had a discussion, and we actually were quite fierce on that topic, because we said it needs to be free, at least for the first 24 hours.
Okay. And because they actually developed indoor bike parking.
Yeah, they are high quality indoor bike parkings. Yeah. And, or not necessarily all are indoor, but they are always high quality.
Yeah, so it's quite expensive indeed. Yeah. And what was their reaction on it should be free for at least the first 24 hours?
It was not very positive at first, no, not necessarily.
So it's to earn money. But
we even started a petition, and we went with flyers, and we wrote to politicians, and we wrote newspaper articles. So we went all out. It's about 10 years back. And we had a big argument with the National Railway Company that the relationship went really down the hill, actually, because of our actions. And because we were putting on the pressure, they started doing pilots. So they had a bike parking in one place where it was the first 24 hours free, and they had another one where you were obliged to pay sometimes €1, sometimes bit more, a bit
Poor
less.
citizens that live in that place and happy citizens that live in the other one.
And the interesting thing is that what happened was when they asked for money for the first 24 hours, people said, okay, well, thank you, I will not use your paid parking. And they would still park their bikes on the streets. So the local municipality still had the same problems, massive amounts of bikes parked on the streets. The National Railway Company still had the same problem, that was that they still had a long time between the bike and the platform. And they had a bad business case because they had a very luxurious bike parking which was empty, and then they had a very ugly bike parking with lots of bikes in it. And if they didn't ask money for the 21st hour, they found that they had more money in the end by people paying if they left their bike for 2 or 3 days in the bike parking than when they asked everybody to pay for the first day too. So actually they found out the business case was best if you give it for free.
And the problem was also solved.
The problem was also solved. So when they figured that one out, we were able to get to an agreement, and we celebrated that we made a national guideline that it should be free for the first 24 hours. And that is such a big success that the national plan was supposed to end in 2020, but last year we already spent all the money. So we had a new problem that we needed more money to develop more projects. And we went together with the National Railway Company and other parties that were involved to the national government for more money. So where 10, 15 years back we were alone, now we went together. And
so a big side effect was that there was actually a group of organizations now lobbying for the same goal.
Yes, and we have a really good cooperation now. And that is very interesting. It is not only a collaboration which is on organizational level working really well, but it is also improving the quality of cycling, because cycling and public transport, if you make good connections, they both the public transport becomes better, but also the areas you can reach by bike. So we have a common interest there. So what I find is very interesting is that the view that 10 years back, when I just started working at Fietsersbond, the railway company literally said to me, you know, we are only interested in people when they enter the station and when they exit on the other side. And I said, yeah, but you know, I'm a train traveler and I'm also a cyclist, and for me the train trip already starts at the front door of my house. So if I have an annoying bike trip and I cannot park my bike, you have a problem because I'm a dissatisfied.
And next time I will take my car.
Exactly. So and that line of reasoning you find now in the whole of the Netherlands. Everybody who is working on this topic understands it needs to be well from door to door and not from platform to platform.
And that's a really important shift in thinking.
Exactly.
And in this success story, what was do you think the most important role Fietsersbond had to change the mindset or to change this?
I think we had several roles. One was to help get the money. That was a very important role. But secondary was also to keep focus on the interest of the cyclists. So our interest was not paying on the first day, for example. And not necessarily high quality bike parking. Because there was already high quality bike parking for the small group of people who were interested in that. But in the Netherlands most people have a special station bike, which is extremely cheap and can be stolen. So the interest in high quality cycling bike parking is relatively low. But now that we have them, also we understand better that it's very nice to have a good parking, because you might actually go on your nice bike to the station area and have a better trip to the station because of it. But our role was fighting for those two conditions, you know, getting money for the renewal of the bike parking, and secondary, having good conditions there.
Yeah.
And good condition is first of all not having to pay.
Yeah. And the side effect was also the creation of that, the cooperation with the other parties, and that you know where to find the important people.
Yeah, the collaboration is very important because beforehand they were our opposition.
Yeah.
So we talked also in words like that. So we would call them the enemy of cyclists and stuff.
Yeah.
Today that has turned around completely.
Yeah.
I would say. So if I now have a problem, I can call the CEO of our national railway company, who is a very influential person in the Netherlands, and he can help me to achieve things for cyclists. Yeah. We even started a big collaboration in the mobility area, where we work together with the automotive, the public transport sector, cycling sector, and we have very far-going ideas on paying for car driving, on the use of space, safe cycling, safe walking, things like that.
That's also the whole mindset shift towards sustainable mobility.
Exactly. Yeah. And cycling, I think it has been very important that they saw that companies can cooperate with the Fietsersbond. We will not change our ideals, or we will not change our goals, but we are a partner for companies like the National Railway Company.
Yeah.
And the image of the Fietsersbond improved because of that.
Yeah, and that's very important.
Yeah, that's very important.
In this story, what do you see? I mean, the Netherlands is maybe quite a specific case still, because we have such a big amount of bicycles on the streets and also on the parking lots. But what can other members learn from this story?
Yeah, I think bike parking is around public transport hubs is actually one of the things you should start with in any country who wants to improve cycling, whether you are new in cycling or small in cycling or more experienced in cycling, because it makes for people who ride their bikes their abilities to move around without a car, they increase immensely.
Yeah.
If you have a good combination between biking and public transport, you have actually an offer which is better than most car trips.
You can't refuse.
You can't refuse it. So you become much more interesting than when you only focus on cycling.
Yeah.
So I think that is very important role. And also you can, even countries who have a low bike usage, they might have a lot of people walking, they might have a good public transport system, just not many people on a bike.
Yeah.
But if you have a good public transport system, or even a not so good public transport system, but people arrive at a station and they have to walk 2 kilometers, that's quite some time. And if you are a woman, every woman knows the feeling in their feet when you're going on high heels and you have to walk 2 kilometers and you know you have to go back again if you want to return.
Yeah. And also if the area you have to walk in doesn't feel quite safe.
Exactly, the social impact. So I think that are very, very important pieces in transport or in mobility of people, where the bike can fit in and offer something that walking cannot and also public transport cannot.
Yeah.
So that's why
important. And maybe as to close this interview, one advocacy tip. What would you give as a tip to the others?
Yeah, well, my tip would be that not most, but I see a lot of advocacy people who are so into the subject that their basic attitude is, I do not understand why other people do not drive their car.
Yeah.
So, or do drive their car. And the problem with that is that people on the other side of the table should be able to feel that they do not necessarily need to change their life themselves, but you're talking for a bigger group of people. So if people tell me, but the car is not an option for me, I always try to broaden the perspective. We're not talking about you and me.
Yeah.
We're talking about people who have a wish to do more on their bike. And if you don't have that wish, let's not talk about that, but focus on the people who have that wish and do not have the opportunity.
Yeah.
Because you will have a better conversation when you talk to each other like that.
Yeah.
Instead of talking about high moral principles, or make it practical.
And also instead of seeing each other as enemies, more as a cooperation, and try to not push your moral standards on the other person that's at the table.
Yeah, because I get annoyed when I talk to somebody from the automotive sector and they start talking to me like I am a soft hippie. I get really annoyed because actually in my private life I like technology.
Yeah.
So I don't identify with that image of the cycling world. And the other way around happens exactly the same.
Yeah.
So if you talk to somebody, you are a dirty, old-fashioned, morally bad person.
Yeah.
You can be quite sure they will never do anything for cycling.
Yeah.
So,
true.
And another tip which I have is don't talk about don't talk about that the bike should take away from the car. Just talk about enhancing the level playing field. So in the Netherlands, for example, people get paid if they drive to their work, whether they do it by car or by public transport or on a bike. But in reality, 80% of the car drivers gets paid, and only 25% of the cyclists get paid.
Yeah.
So what I'm not talking about the car part. I'm talking about there's no level playing field.
Yeah.
So
it should be for both parties.
Yeah. We can win still so much by talking about making the level playing field, because if you talk about a level playing field, people don't get so easily defensive.
Yeah.
If you talk about getting the car out or deteriorating car conditions, they get defensive and you don't get a good conversation.
Yeah.
In reality, of course, we are kicking out the cars, but
that's the idea.
You should not talk so much about that.
Talk about cycling and improving cycling rather than getting rid of cars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Very interesting, topic, and also to see what the success was here in the Netherlands. And I hope other members can learn a lot from it.
Yes, I'm also very curious to the other examples that will be presented, because we can learn also from new things that happen in other parts of Europe.
Yeah, so this is an invitation. If you have a really good example to share, please let us know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you too.